Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the crossover. It's been a while, but myself and Mr. David Edgar are back. David, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you, mate?
Apart from my hair, my facial hair, my eyesight, my back, my legs, I'm great, mate. I'm great.
That's a cheery introduction to the.
It's only because it's going to be a very cheery show for a change.
Yeah. I must admit, it's just
I mean, at this rate, David, we're going to win the Champions League next year.
yeah, no, not that Rangers fans ever get carried away. Yeah, it was funny, and it last Monday, um, Danny Rose a genius. Then last Thursday he was an idiot, and then on Monday he's a genius again. So yeah, things sure can change quickly here, and it'll be that way to the end of the season, given it's the title race.
Yeah, it is going to be one of those. I must admit, after the Motherwell game, before the Motherwell game, when I seen the lineup, probably a bit like yourself and I'm like every other Rangers fan,
Mm.
I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? And then, of course, what happened, and I think it was, do you know, we're going to drop more points this season, right?
We
Because
are, yeah.
that's just football, right? What terrified me in the Motherwell game was the performance. That terrified me a little bit because I'm thinking that almost felt a little bit Russell Martin esque. And then, David, you move on to the Hearts game and you go,
Hmm.
well, hold on a minute. This guy learns very quickly from his mistakes.
We'll drop more points because we're not a great team.
Yeah, that's true.
We're a developing team, and I think we're a team that's quite clearly heading in the right direction. And I think that gives me a lot of hope for the future. That I think this team is getting better, and I think with another window, I think the guys that we brought in the last window will do well for us. I think another window will again add to that, and I think we have a good coach. But the the reality is that that doesn't mean that you never have another bad performance.
Mhm.
The reality is that it means that you learn overall and you get better. It doesn't just mean that there's one week where that's it, everything's brilliant and we're fantastic from then on in. So you will have bad nights. And he did have a bad night against Motherwell. I don't think it's been disrespectful because, or being overly critical rather, to say that because against Motherwell, he picked a team that didn't work for the game.
Mhm.
And that,
Yeah.
that is borne out, as you said, by both the performance and in the end the result. It's a fine margin. If Rangers don't concede that late goal, we're all going, okay, it wasn't great, but we won. Um, but I don't think that he'd have been fooled by the level of performance either, to be honest with you, given what we witnessed. So yeah, such is the life of football manager. You know, you can get it wrong, and you get lambasted for it. You get it right, though you do get praise for it, and deservedly, Rangers have had a lot of praise for the weekend, which was just um, a wonderful spectacle, a brilliant day at Ibrox, and it just felt really proper. I think Sunday when there was a massive crowd. I think Rangers said it was the biggest crowd since the John Gregg testimonial in 1978 in the modern era at Ibrox, and it was a crowd both sides. You know, Hearts massive away support, and they were really up for it as well. And then the way the game was played, it was just full blooded. Two teams were going out there to try and get the 3 points. Two teams were going out there to try and win the match. And it was interesting as well, just the way that it worked out, because obviously Sky had that game on in the big
Mhm.
Sunday afternoon 4:30 slot, and the only competing game was Arsenal in the FA Cup, and they were 4 up at home to lower league opposition in 20 minutes. So a lot of people switched over and just thought, right, well, we'll check out the Scottish game. And I think that, you know, in terms of what we did, what Hearts and Rangers served up, or what Rangers and Hearts served up rather, was fantastic. So
Great.
obviously,
It was a fantastic advert for Scottish football, David.
yeah, obviously it's a lot easier for me to say that because my team won.
Yes.
So I wouldn't take much comfort at that if I was a Hearts fan and going, well, oh, great, we were part of it. But it is true, though.
And
Just going
also
back at things out.
sorry to interrupt again, but hearing you and Cameron have a meltdown, I mean, that's worth maybe just as much as us beating them.
Well, as people on Twitter may know, I've had a bet on with Ewan since early in the season, not the start of the season, early in the season, where I said Rangers will finish above Hearts. And he's been lording it over me the last few months. So I don't think he's quite as cocky now. There have been times where I've been, I better look at that money and get it ready. It's for charity before anyone asks. It is going to charity. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. And I think that, look, you can't write off Hearts. They're a good side. They came to Ibrox and they showed that they do have quality. I think Braga's a super little player.
Yeah.
Make an absolute fortune on. The guy Leonard that they signed from Birmingham, I think, is a good player. But I do think that Rangers, certainly in the 11 put out, because Hearts can legitimately say, well, we're without our best players, and they are. They're without Devlin, and they're without
Shankland.
So, okay, but everybody gets injuries. The point is now, okay, can you keep going? Because these games are every week now. Even matches you're expected to win. They've got Falkirk at home coming up, and I mean that is not an easy fixture. So can they handle the pressure? And from us though, it's exactly that. It's like, okay, you saw within a week, what you're capable of doing. I do think everything for Rangers is charting the right way, if you like.
Yes.
Scoring more goals. We look more capable of scoring goals than we were even when we were winning under Danny Rule. But we can chuck in a performance like Motherwell or a performance like Hibs when we're pretty anemic in the attacking front. So it'll be about consistency, that ability to get over the line. But Rangers were really good on Saturday and Sunday against a really good side. And I think the manner of the victory is what really encouraged us as a support, because the bottle has been questioned. And I know sometimes that they bristle at that, but here's the thing: it's like Arsenal down south. People will question whether they've got the bottle to win a title or whatever you want to call it, whether they've got the mental strength or the fortitude. Doesn't matter. It's all just the same term for the same thing. People will question it up until they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no point anybody getting annoyed about it at Rangers. Just you're as well just going, okay, here's what we need to do to prove that we can do it. Because until you do it, you can't be surprised that people have their doubts. But going behind twice and roaring back each time and then totally dominating that second half, and okay, the game was live right up until that fourth goal, but Rangers were the better team. And
I even think they were the better team, and I even think they were the better team in the first half.
we were. I mean, we were the better team in the first. I would say the first half was close. Or I'd say Rangers edged the first half. If Rangers had gone in 2-1 up at half time, that would have been, I think, a fair reflection of the game. Second half, though, I thought there was only one team in it.
Yeah, there really was. Now, I want to ask you about something. I want to come back to the game, and I want to discuss Chermiti, and I want to discuss Nadiri and all that stuff. But something very close to my heart is obviously I've got a younger brother who, well, he's 20 now. He's not quite, I don't know if you can class 20 as young, but he's came through the youth setup of football. He was at Rangers at the age of 8 or 9, and he's went through and he's been at Hearts, Motherwell, Dundee United, and he's now at Peterhead. And a lot of that is to do with youth development. And I've followed the Rangers youth teams as well with William Urban, who you'll know, who runs RFC youth updates. I've always kept a close eye on the Rangers youth and the development, and I would love nothing more than for 1 to 11 on that pitch to have came through the Rangers Youth Academy. Unfortunately, for any football team in the world, that's not possible. But I feel it's only right, David, that we highlight that you are now sponsored by the RYDC.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And did you know, you didn't know where I was going there, did you?
No, I mean, it's a legitimate topic of conversation, isn't it? Rangers Youth Development. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff with Colin in the past to try and help out, and he said, could we do this a wee bit more formal? And I was delighted to, absolutely. It's something. I mean, I've never met a Rangers fan who came out and went, "No, I don't like it," but it's something
I've had a few say that we should disband the youth academy.
I get that, but then I think that's a totally separate thing from do the Rangers Youth Development Corporation do good work, and they do. 12.5 million raised this century alone towards the Rangers Youth Development. It all goes there. That's the thing. All the money that they raise goes there, and it's just things that people can do to help out in a quiet way that don't cost a fortune. You can sign up to play Rangers Lotto at £1 a go. You can buy a Union Jackpot ticket online, even if you're not going to the game. But if you're going to the game, obviously you can buy one. You can buy a brick. You can donate. There's so many ways to help, and that's 100% of money going to the club. It's not going to, to be split with a partner. It's not going. It's all going to them. So yeah, rydc.co.uk. Go and have a look at that, folks. And as I say, even play Rangers Lotto. I've never won the jackpot. And if I do, somebody asked me, I said, if you won the jackpot, would you hand it back? And I thought about it, and then I thought I would rather spend it on stuff.
Yes. No doubt you would spend it on Rangers stuff, David.
A lot of it,
yes. Because I can see that fantastic coin collection behind you. Which puts I've got 3 of them, so that puts me to shame.
Well, they're not just the Zenith ones. I've got other ones like from when you go around to various RSCs. They usually have, or often, not always, they have a coin. So I pick up those on my travels as well, which is always a nice wee memento. But you know me. I mean, anything with a Rangers logo on it, if it's not an extraordinary amount of money, I'll buy.
I think the only person who's probably spent more on Rangers than you is Wilf Marshall.
No, I know some. Well, yes, I'm not denying that. But in terms of, I know guys that are like serious spenders. Like I've been to auctions with the Rangers stuff, and I've maybe got a budget of 500 quid. I maybe could go to $1,000 if something really good comes up that I want. But there's guys in there that spend like 40 grand. So they're the boys, they're the boys that own like Match 172 tops and stuff. And that's the stuff that I'm like, but I just I like my Rangers stuff around, and I think that with something like RYDC, there is that sense that you're contributing something that is direct to the club, that doesn't get squandered either. It gets put straight where they say it goes. So yeah, absolutely. If you can, then go for it, folks.
And I will say I've met Colin a few times, Colin Stewart, and a nicer man. And I'm not just that this has got nothing to do with them sponsoring you or anything. A nicer man you will never meet.
Tell you a story about Colin. Colin Stewart, for those of you who don't know. Colin's been working at RYDC. He's got me. I hope he writes a book one day. Some of the stories are fantastic. The Spivs tried to empty the RYDC account just before they were thrown out, and Colin stopped them. It was Colin that physically intervened and stopped them doing that. But at the risk of his own job at the time, because they were still in charge at the club, Mm-hmm. But I tell you a story about him. As I say, I do stuff for Rangers youth events and stuff that they need hosted or whatever, and I don't take any money for it. Just it's a personal thing. I don't take money from the club for stuff like that. Because they could hire a real presenter, so they shouldn't be spending money on me, is my take on it, as well. But
always available for hire.
Well, with Colin, I'm just like, but he's always, would you take money? And I'm like, no, I won't, thank you, but no. He heard when my dad was ill and having treatment at the Beats, and Colin got in touch with him and offered my dad tickets at the end of his treatment to go and sit in the director's box. So as my dad was going through that at the Beats, and he had that to look forward to, and he kept saying to me, he's like, no, it's gone well, and I'm going to. I'm delighted to say he's recovering well, by the way, but what a thing to do for somebody, just such a nice thing. And he says, I know if I'd said to you, you'd have said no. So I said to your dad directly, and I couldn't say no. But that's the measure of the guy. He didn't need to do it, and he did it. So a great guy. He's somebody that I'm pretty proud works for Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely incredible guy. Have we spoke since the transfer window? I don't think we have we?
No. Isn't it nice to be sitting here after the transfer window and not want to come on and go, what the fuck did we do in that transfer window?
It's
unusual. It's actually nice to be four guys that you're like, I like these guys. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them.
There is, and look, Romans, he looks phenomenal. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Nadiri, he's come in and he's looked good, and I think there's more to come from him. The one I really want to talk about, though, the one that maybe he hasn't been the best of the four as of yet, But the one that I'm really excited by, David, is Chukwueze in the middle of the park.
I
I
think there's
think,
an argument that he has.
well, possibly,
Yeah,
but I
I
think
think he's up
the
there.
more he plays, David, the more he gets to know this league, I
Mm.
think he'll run this league in the middle of the park.
He's just got skills that we've been crying out for, which is in Scotland, in any league actually. I look at the teams down south, you know, they've all got a midfielder who almost as if is has a magnet on loose balls. There's Wilf there actually in the comments, and totally agree, Wilf. Um, you need a guy that's, as I say, a magnet for second balls. Even more so in Scotland, where there's a lot of loose balls, because the quality of passing up here isn't as high as it is down there. And he's brilliant at that. He just goes round and quietly picks up the ball. He's good at winning the ball in there as well, and he's good at using it. And I think as well that he's shown just signs so far that he's pretty comfortable bringing the ball forward as well. I agree. I think so far he's looked really good physically. You've got no worries about him either in the Scottish League. Seems to have a good engine on him as well. Just I think it's really exciting when somebody arrives and just slots right in, to the point now that you're going, wow, he's Romans came in, has looked good, looks solid, intelligent, hardworking, and and
Fast.
and fast and good going forward. But also, he looks like he looks like a defender who doesn't, go, oh well, I'm better going forward. He is good going forward, but he looks like a defender that quite enjoys a bit of defending, and
Mhm.
I like that. Scott Olsen, obviously the expectations are higher with him, and we know that he hadn't been playing regularly, but you saw with that goal at the weekend, that's why we signed that guy, be a difference maker in a big moment, and he produced that ball for Chermiti, and that's what we hope to see more for him throughout the rest of the season. And then obviously Nadiri, yeah, I agree with you about Nadiri, hard worker. Um, Already showing, albeit it was Queen's Park, but still, that he can take a chance. I think the thing with Nadiri is that, given us the option to play the two, you saw at the weekend the difference that made to Chermiti,
Yeah.
because defenders can't concentrate on him then. Also, Nadiri, he's a good presser. He goes and he hunts the ball and he keeps teams on their toe. And then if you look at the own goal, it happens because he's in there pressurising the defender, which if we only had the one man up front, couldn't happen because it's Chermiti who has the header. So basically what happens then is Chermiti has the header, Moore has the shot, and it gets cleared, because of course it does. Instead, the defender panics. Now, he should still have cleared it, I understand that, but it was the fact somebody was there putting the pressure on it, being in the right place where a goal scorer should be, to see if anything can happen. And he made something happen. He forced a mistake. So all of them
Just
are looking
having
decent.
just having people in the box, David, is a
We were
big
we were a
upgrade.
lot better about that on Sunday. There was a lot of it when you looked in, and Rangers had 5, 6, 7 people in the box, and that's massive difference. Yes.
It was huge, and there's been a lot of talk about Danny Rule and formations, team selections, 3-5-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-2. It actually starts to hurt my head a wee bit. This might sound really stupid, and I apologise if it does. I don't know so much if Danny Rule is a manager who actually has a formation. I think he basically just sends players out and gives them all individual instructions to cover certain parts of the pitch and goes, just do your job. I see this. Do we play a 4-3-3? Do we play a 4-2-3-1? Do we play two up top? I think that what he's trying to build is a team that's just that interchangeable, that Nadiri and Chermiti will be up front, and then Chermiti will be out on the wing, and Gassama will cut in. Formational wise, I don't think it's really that structured.
They'll have, a base structure that they go into, absolutely. But then you're right, it'll be, that's the thing, that teams have got different structures for when they have the ball and when they don't have the ball. They've got different structures for when the opposition fullback has the ball deep. They're all supposed to be in a place. The positional information that players have now is, honestly, it's unbelievable, the amount that they have to do, and that knowledge of where, and the reason for it is, if one person gets it wrong, the whole thing can fall down. So yeah, I think what he is he doesn't have this is my formation and it's all I play.
Mm-hmm.
That's I don't think he has that at all. I think he's more about a manner and a style of playing. And I think he's more about, as well, obviously the kind of players he has. Because the Rangers squad isn't finished yet,
Yeah.
right? I mean, a squad never is. It's always a working project. But at the moment, this one, it's not. We had a good window on paper, and early signs are good as well. But it's it, we still have areas that we'll need to address in the summer. There's still lots of room for improvement within that squad. But at the weekend, it was a bit different. It gave us the extra attacker. For that, you need your midfielders to step up. And I thought that Chukwani, as you mentioned, was excellent. I thought Raskin was poor with the ball, but the rest of his game was good. His off the ball stuff was
Yeah, I thought he was really
really
good.
important.
I've actually had a few, not arguments, but I spoke to people about Raskin. Disagreements, yes. That's
strong conversations.
I don't think Raskin's ever been great with the ball.
No, he's
I don't
not.
think that's ever been part of his game.
And
see what he was asked to do, though, in that Hearts game. I don't know if maybe, just maybe, Chukwuani's outshining him a little bit because he's now took on that mantle of give me the ball or I'll win the ball back and I'll carry the ball forward. But I thought the job that Raskin was asked to do against Hearts, I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, and he had to do that, the off the ball work and the positional stuff he had to do, because otherwise we would have been unbalanced in the middle of the park. Yeah. We had to sacrifice a bit of what he can bring in terms of his drive for that. But I think when you add into that Diamandi, who's been a different player, I mean, I'd have happily sold Diamandi January the 1st based on the first half of this season. Yeah. Then he had that half at Parkhead, and he's been very good since, I think. He was unlucky not to start, but it was the right call. And then when he came on, he had an influence. And I thought at the weekend it showed you the benefits of, the bench. We talk a lot about, strong bench and whatever. Obviously, the eye-catching thing is Gassama. For me, that's Gassama's role. Mm-hmm. I'd be using as an impact sub in the last 20 minutes when they're having Moore's, it can't be fun chasing Mikey Moore for 70 minutes. Even if you keep him quiet, he's worked you. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like, even if you're winning the battle and he's not having a good game, he still ran you up and down the park while you've been making sure he doesn't do anything. And then you bring Gassama on. I don't like Gassama on the right. I don't like when Rangers go with that front three of Moore, Chermiti and Gassama. It doesn't look productive to me. It hasn't been productive particularly. I think that when Rangers go with the starting four that we had at the weekend, and then you can make the changes, then I think that you saw what it can do. And look, everybody has a part to play. From now to the end of the season, Tav came on in the last half hour and just calmed things down, and was very good. Again, that will probably be a role that we'll see him fulfill a fair bit towards the end of the season. So Diamandi came off the bench, and it's crucial that guys don't huff, that they realise,
yes,
you didn't start this game, but you were a massive part in us getting the 3 points, and that is what till the end of the season is really important.
Which I suppose then brings the question, you mentioned Gassama, and I agree. I agree. I've always maintained the point that when Gassama starts, if he has a poor 5 or 10 minutes, that's it. He then doesn't perform in the game. If he starts well, then he relatively plays well. I just don't think we've seen that enough from him. But is Gassama happy to be told, right, okay, by the way, you're not going to start many games, by the way, but you're going to be an impact sub? Because
probably not. And look, you don't want players that are magic. I want guys that want to start, but I just think at the moment you say to him, look, this is the tactic that we have for winning games at the moment. Mikey starts, you come on and add something later on. And there are other games, by the way, where you go, right, Gassama left, Moore in the middle, and Scott Wilson out wide. So you will have horses for courses. You will have different things for different matches, but I just think that where you get the most out of them is always on the left, never the right. And then it's about, you saw Hearts were terrified every time he got the ball because they knew they guys had been playing in an epic game, 90 minutes or 70 minutes at that point. Every time he got the ball and he was running at pace against them, it's the last thing you want to see if you're a defender. Is a guy coming on who's got good control, and of course, the the run and the pass for the fourth goal was just superb.
And again, it brings up the conversation about Chermiti, and it brings up. I mean, that's
Mm.
three goals, four goals against Hearts,
Mm-hmm.
2 goals against Celtic, obviously one against Kilmarnock.
Half of his
Is
career goals now against Derek McInnes.
yes, which after Derek McInnes' wee moan at the end of the game is rather pleasing. Is this just sounds a ridiculously stupid question to ask. Is he just a big game player?
Well, so far, he's a big game scorer.
Scorer.
So far, because he's done all right in other games. At the moment, Chermiti is a jigsaw that hasn't been completed. All the pieces are there. It's just about assembling them correctly to get the finished product. And this is when we go back to that debate about was he worth 8 million. It was never about whether he was worth 8 million. It was he worth 8 million to us, because we couldn't really afford at that time 8 million on a guy who is going to be good. We sort of needed it straight away, and that was the problem. He's more the type of guy that you think Rangers will move towards, which is, if we've been winning leagues and cups and we've got guys in there that are producing, then you can bring in a guy and say, okay, cost a bit of money. It's not going to be straight away. We're going to build up to that with him. Fans understand that a wee bit more. But the display was brilliant. I mean, it really was. And the thing about it is that I think the formation suited him. I think having a partner in the dairy suits him and helps him. So there's that. But then the finishes, all three of them were different class. The first one, at first, it just looks like a decent finish past the goalkeeper. But if you actually see the touch after his shot is blocked, the touch with his left foot to control it and guide it onto his right just sets him up. It's a brilliant touch, and most players would have miscontrolled it because it was coming at some speed. The second, everything about it, I love. The move to get the ball to Scott Olsen is really good. The cross is wonderful. But see the run, the timing of the run and the header, because he sends it back across the keeper rather than into the far post, which is what the keeper's expecting, which is why he ends up going the wrong way. Because that's, nobody would have said anything, he's taking the wrong option. It was just really clever. And the third one for me is the difference between a player who's confident after scoring 2 goals and a guy who isn't, because a lot of the times with not just him, we've seen it from Miovski as well and Danilo early in the season, the ball would come to them in the box and they'd get in a fankle because they were like, what am I going to do? Right, well, I take a touch. Shit, should I just shoot first time? Oh, they're on me. And the chance was lost. We saw it so often.
He doesn't score that goal a week ago.
No, he knows when Gassam was running and he starts peeling off, he knows exactly what he's going to do when the ball arrives. He's going to take a touch and he's going to lever it low into the corner. That's confidence. That's the difference it can make in a player. I think we had a recent example of it with Miovski, who was absolutely howling for 50 minutes against Kilmarnock. Really bad, like just a non-active participant on the field. He got that goal and it was a lovely goal. It was really good. And then the next game against Queen's Park is really good. It's, if these guys are getting their confidence now and timing their run towards the end of the season and one of them pulls a full Lafferty, that would just be lovely. But Chermiti, as I say, is clearly a good player. He's clearly got the ability. The question is then you need to deliver. Now, the fact that he's delivered against Hearts and delivered against Celtic makes you go, right, fair enough. If you could do it against them, you should, in theory, be able to do it against all the other teams. That's just common sense. But he needs to just keep going in that vein. But having the partner there helps him, I think, because it does take the focus on him. And it means that defences can't concentrate on him and put 2 men on him all the time. It just changes the dynamic up, I think.
What's your thoughts? And I think we're in a good place right now. And when I say that, I'm definitely not talking about Hamilton, right? Because that is not a good place. But as Rangers, we're in a good place, and there's so many.
Palace still there?
I think that's shut down now.
Shows you how long since.
I think that's.
My clubbing days anyway.
Do you know that I've been to the Hamilton Palace like twice in my life?
Really?
Right? The first time, because I've I've only lived in Hamilton for like 4 years. I'm from Glasgow, right? I've only lived in Hamilton for like 4 years. First time I went to Hamilton Palace, I was young. The second time was about 4 years ago. And as I walked up to the door, the guy says to me, "No, mate, you need to go into the overs." I couldn't
Yeah.
get to go into the over. Was it over 30s? I had to go in or something.
Oh man, I've not been in any nightclub for
No, they
well,
just
really
don't.
since I stopped drinking because there's no reason at all.
Do you
Well,
know
I don't dance.
the
So
only nightclub apart from the Hamilton Palace that I was ever really in was Destiny. I don't know if you remember Destiny in the tune.
I do. It wasn't really my time. I was never into that kind of
I was in
music.
it. I was in it twice. I preferred the pub.
Yeah, I
To
was
be
the same.
honest.
I was a pub guy, and then occasionally, if I was absolutely blitzed, I would go to the garage,
Yeah,
or the cat house, that kind of thing. Then, as soon as I got my own flat, it was I have a carry out in the house. We'll go back to mine. I can control the music. Do
yes.
you know what I mean? I can smoke. So yeah, that was it for me. But anyway, we're in a good place, but not
Yeah.
Hamilton. Go on.
Yes, we're in a good place. So I don't like to speak negatively about any players when we're in a good place.
What you're
Miovski,
going.
no, but well, no,
No,
I'm going to.
no.
I'm,
You just
no, no, no.
nobody has ever used the phrase. I don't like to speak negatively about somebody and then not spoken negatively about somebody.
No, because I'm going to get you to do it.
Well, I'm not. So there, huh?
Miovski. It's a strange one, David.
I
Right?
like Miovski, and I know
Yeah,
I'm alone. No, I'm not
you're
alone,
not.
but I
You're
know
not alone.
I'm in the
You're not alone.
minority. Look. He has been poor. Okay, there's
Yeah,
no
but he's
doubt about
scored
it.
goals. But
He always will.
Annan, Queens Park,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
it. He needs to deliver in bigger matches. He looked as though he was getting into a run and then he got injured. And as I say, he's clearly the confidence was an issue there for him. I still think he can be a useful player for us. At the moment, though, we've three strikers and he's third,
Yeah.
and that needs to motivate him. But I think he's better than he's shown in his time at Rangers, based yes on what he did at Aberdeen. He then had that spell at Girona that clearly has had an effect on his self-belief or whatever.
The
And
worry
he's
is that he
taken
never
Rangers and
gets
hasn't
that
loved it.
Aberdeen back, though,
He might
David.
not. He might not. Right. And I might be looking back a few years going, well, I really thought he'd be a good signing and he wasn't. But I think at the moment, I still think he could play a part between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I most certainly, like I say, I hope so because we're in a good place, and if we've got three strikers that are scoring goals, and if we've
Absolutely.
got midfielders that can start
If we
adding
have
goals.
three strikers that are scoring goals, we will win this league because
Yes,
the reason that,
yes,
over the last couple of months has been that we didn't score enough goals. That has been the knock. Defensively, we've been all right. Pretty decent, in fact, in terms of goals conceded. But it's been in the attack, we've been flat. So if we can get strikers, I mean, if they were to hit, three of them hit a purple patch now, we will win this league. I have zero doubts about that. Because I think defensively gave away two atrocious goals at the weekend, right enough, but that's been rarer with Europe, really. Domestically, that's become much rarer. So I think defensively we're solid enough to win a league. It's just, can we score enough goals? And as I say, it's trending better. We've been getting more. The 5 against Kelly, okay, 8 against Queens Park, but still, God, we of all teams know that it's not automatic that you go out and do that against a championship team.
Championship team.
Yes,
Team we beat them 8-0.
Yeah, it's not automatic that you do that. 4 against Hearts. Now we need to keep that going. We need to keep at it. We need to build that up. We need to show that we've got more invention than we had. No, I think we do. I mean, we definitely do. We've got more invention in the side, more routes to goal. Because I think it was a legitimate thing on one of the shows earlier in the season when we were talking about the strikers, and one of the viewers went, well, it's not that we make them a lot of chances. And I thought that's a very, very fair point. It wasn't.
It is.
But if we are making them chances, and we've started to, hopefully now these guys will start scoring goals. Confidence will build. They'll score more goals. It can be a virtuous circle.
Now, I'm not one for attention, right? I don't know if you know that about me. I'm not really one for attention, David. I'm certainly not one for being clipped up and put all over social media and blah 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 by Celtic pages, which has happened in the past and stuff like that.
Well, that's the last that I told you. Next time you're going to the shops, put trousers on.
But they're so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hell mend you, as my mum would say.
I'm so uncomfortable, and I've got very fancy boxer shorts. It has to be.
I do not want to know. Move on.
But one of the other hosts on the Rabble is convinced that come the Old Firm game, and this is how confident he's feeling, that both Yusuf Chermiti and Nadiri will absolutely batter and destroy Celtic's centre backs. Are you as confident, David? And if you are, could you go into as much detail as possible?
Look, the
Let's get ahead of
capacity,
ourselves.
the capacity you have here for creating a hostage of fortune is enormous. I like our odds in that game. I will not be going into it fearful. I go into it expectant. Nervy. It's an Old Firm match, but I like our odds on that one. I like our chances. That means nothing. It's what happens on the field that day.
I'm trying to get a viral clip out of you here, David. Come on.
No, it's true. Like
David Edgar says that Rangers will score 6 against a terrible Celtic defence.
I mean, I'm too old for that. Too long in the tooth. I think that at the moment that you would look at the matchup and say, yeah, we have every right to be confident going into that. Equally, they'll say we're winning games, right? Skin of their teeth, but they're winning games, and that's all that matters. So, no, I think that the two games will be epic. I think home advantage could be significant in these upcoming games. But
I'm so nervous about it right now.
Be honest, well, I'm not. I'll be honest, because I haven't given any thought for it at the moment. All I'm looking ahead to is Sunday. Sorry, I'm game at a time guy. There's not much point looking that far ahead. So for me, it's beat Livy, and then we'll start talking about the Old Firm. But at the moment, that's way down the horizon for me. Saturday, total focus. Sunday, even total focus. If I
focus, you keep forgetting what day it is.
I can remember what day it is. It's definitely Sunday. Yes, Sunday.
Now, Heart and Hand, I believe, David, if you go onto the website, does merchandise. Yes.
No, I don't know. Well, maybe some, but not a lot currently.
Not a lot. Same as me, really. But what I wanted to ask is, will you be introducing Long Johns?
Andy could, I suppose. But
because Nasser Giga, and I've not had a chance to speak
oh my
to
God,
since.
these, yes, fuck. Right, that's
incredible.
Right. Somebody's going to come on and defend this, right? And that's fair enough. And they'll give me the reasons and they'll say, well, actually, I think you'll find that these eight, no, right, fuck off. It is 2026. If wearing a pair of long johns had been effective with it, this reminds me, you're too young to remember this, but a lot of the viewers will remember when players started wearing cycling shorts, right?
No, I remember.
Right, back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, they started, these are great, they help your thighs. No, they didn't. What happens is one guy does it and then they all start doing it and they kid themselves on, it's marginal gains. It's like, no, it's no gain at all. The socks, cutting holes in socks. Football had been played for 100 years and nobody had figured, with all these sports scientists and doctors, that it did help to... Bollocks. Somebody did it. They all went, that looks cool. I'm going to do that. Years ago, it was the nose strip. It helps you breathe more oxygen. No, it doesn't. Right. So, no, it's the latest in a long line. As soon as I saw it was Idrissa Gueye, the Everton player, and as soon as I saw him with them, I went, give it 2 months, and every club will have 2 or 3 guys doing this. It
wasn't just that it was long johns. It was like their grandpa's long johns.
They look hellish, don't they? But I genuinely wouldn't mind it if, yes, there's a really good reason. I just find it unbelievable that 20, 30 years into the sports science revolution, that at a club like Real Madrid, where they spend literally millions and millions of pounds on this stuff, that not one of them, their doctors, went, lads, you're not going to believe this, right? Long johns, right? Tight long johns, Under Armour, but cut off a wee bit at the bottom. Tiny shin pads. That's another one.
Were baggy. It was like a pair of joggies he was wearing.
I note he ditched them for the next game.
He did. Scotland
I
isn't
did.
even that cold.
I look. Whatever floats your boat, but it is a complicated game, the modern game. There's no doubt about it. But I think we always have kept. Look, we're humans, right? I can be fashion victimy on certain things. Everybody is, but footballers are totally prone to it. The other one I remember was Vicks on the
Yeah.
shirt. Remember in the early
Patrick Vieira.
2000s, Patrick Vieira, he
Yeah.
started to, oh no, it helps me breathe more. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then suddenly everybody did. And then it dies away. And you think, well, hold on a minute here. This was supposed to give a massive advantage. Why are teams stopping doing it? And it's because it doesn't. And it goes out of fashion. It's the same at the moment, as I said. Tiny shin pads is the latest one.
I
Give
hate
it
that.
give it 2 years, they'll all be wearing fucking Robocop's leggings because that'll be back the fashion. Everything swings one way or another, and it'll be the same. In the 80s, tiny tight strips and tiny tight
Shorts.
shorts. In the 90s, you could fucking camp in a footballer's kit. There was that much material
And
involved
you were
in it.
about 100 degrees as
And
well.
they were like wool jackets, but everything comes and goes, and somebody comes up with something and says this. All I would say is, I guarantee you, somewhere somebody is punting medical long johns right to footballers and is making a few quid off it. And
You
fair
get
play to him. Hope
absolute
he does.
fortune off it.
Hope he does
Oh.
well until eventually one footballer will go, hold on, this is bollocks, and they'll all go, yeah, it's bollocks, and it'll stop.
Now, on that, there's my viral clip. On Nasser, Giga, David, right? Brian's asking the question: who out of the centre halves we have would you keep beyond the summer? Now, before you answer, Nasser Giga for me started off horrendously. Right, I don't think anybody's going to argue that point, David. Just before AFCON, I felt as if he'd started to improve a little bit. Goes away, doesn't play, comes back, and I think he's been excellent. And is
Yeah,
he somebody who you would
he was
look at
I thought
possibly?
he was unlucky to get left out. The thing is, the Wolves are definitely going to be in the Championship next year,
Yep,
and
that
therefore,
helpful.
I think, well, it's helpful for him if he wants to go back to Wolves, because he'll get a game then, because they'll have to trim their squad of bigger earners, of which he has not one. So I think they'll probably use him. So I'd be surprised if they were that keen to let him go, because they'll have a bit of a drain of their players, as always happens when a team gets relegated. Of the four centre halves, including Cornelius, is one of them. So would the four be Suter, Fernandez, Giga, and Cornelius?
Yeah.
I'd keep. I'm delighted. The one that would stay for me would be Fernandez.
Fernandez, yeah.
Depending on what Suter's looking for, possibly.
No.
But the manager has spoken positively about his influence, which is fair enough. But I think that he has mistakes in him. We saw it last week. He doesn't do well enough at the Motherwell goal. He didn't do well enough at Braga's goal at the weekend. I think it's a position we can upgrade. I think Fernandez is getting better. Still prone to a mistake, right? We probably have to be realistic and accept that most players, we are not likely, unfortunately, to get a butcher or a golf. But I think in Fernandez, there's still a lot of potential. And it's odd because he is 24.
24, yeah.
People sometimes they mistake when I say there's a lot of potential in him. They go, but he's 24, and I'm like, yeah, but people develop at different ages. Davy Weir didn't come into professional football until he was 23, so you can develop at different times. What I mean by saying he's got potential is that I don't think he is as good yet as he can and will go on and be. So Fernandez would be one I would keep. Cornelius, unfortunately, you can't, based on the injury record. It's thanks very much, and you send him back. Of the others, as I say, I think Suter, I'd probably let go. I probably wouldn't extend his deal, and Giga, I would let go back to Wolves. I mean, if they were going to come back and say, 3-4 million quid, then you would talk. But
Squad option.
I doubt they would.
Tav.
And we don't know what his wages are. Me personally, no.
Time up.
Time up. And people will argue and say, does he have a part to play between now and the end of the season? Yes, he does. Absolutely. He saw it at the weekend. But Rangers need a first choice right back in the summer. The problem that Tav has is that physically there are too many games now where he is getting absolutely the run around by the opposition because he just doesn't have the burst of acceleration that he used to have before. He will always be able to control. I think Tav could be delivering great dead balls when he's in his 70s, so I get that. But again, it depends if the manager wants him around. And he's prepared because the manager might say to him, look, James, you stay about for another year, but you're very rarely going to play with the odd sub appearance. You're not going to play the big games either. He might go, do you know what? I've only got maybe 2-3 years left at top level. And he's always been a guy that wanted to play.
Yeah.
Is he happy sitting there maybe making 15 appearances when he could be somewhere else? Okay, a smaller club, but playing 45, 50 games, you have a short shelf life as an elite sportsman.
Yeah, but you could be looking. He could be looking at it going, I've had a really good career, and even if I'm not going to play, I'll pick up a couple of £1 million in the next few years.
I just don't.
But I don't think he's that type of guy.
No,
though.
I think Tav would be looking at it and going, do you know what? I've maybe got another 200 appearances over the next 3 years, or not as many as that, but I've maybe got another 100 appearances the next 3 years, albeit probably at a lower level. I want to get them. I don't want to have got to the end of my career where I could have another 100 games. And I just think he's a guy that on a Saturday and a Wednesday likes to play football. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I just think there are now too many times where you go, Tav really struggled there tonight. Not to say that he can't play a part between now and the end of the season. Absolutely not. He will have an important part to play. Wouldn't surprise me if he pops up with a really important goal or three before the end of the season. But I just think in the summer it would be time
he is still scoring.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think in the summer it's time he can have, absolute testimonial. Thank him. Great servant. I think he will be appreciated more when his time at Rangers comes to an end. But I would be next chaptering it in the summer.
That coffee's went cold.
It will do that, yeah.
Oh, that's disgusting. Right, from moving forward, folks, into the following weeks, I'll take more questions. I do appreciate that I don't always bring up as many comments as I normally do. So moving forward, I will bring up more questions.
Have we got any questions?
Have I got any questions? Martin, it's always a question for David. What's his thoughts on Romans so far, and what ex-Rangers player does he remind him of?
That's a really interesting one because I've seen people pick at Newman, and I don't see that other than a composure. I think different types of player. I think that to me he reminds me a wee bit more of, believe it or not, Bomber John Brown when he played at fullback, because Bomber, hence the nickname, got up and down that flank, power, great shot on him, right, would get to the byline and deliver the ball in, but would get back, get the tackles in, come round the back, help his centre back. So he actually reminds me a wee bit of Bomber in his early days at Rangers as more of a fullback. And of course, Bomber then went on to play in midfield and then finished up primarily as a centre half. But at the start, he was that type of player where it was, he had strength and he had stamina and he had running power and he had determination and he had that, competitive nature. And Romans reminds me a bit of that. I think Newman was more, probably more a kind of more Dutch, really, wasn't he? He was more a sort of, get the ball down and play. Whereas I like Romans.
Newman didn't really enjoy a tackle that much, did he?
He was a good defender. He didn't do the blood and thunder defending, but then you don't always need to. In Scotland we're bad for thinking if a guy's no sliding about, he's not making tackles. No, Newman was very good at just taking the ball off a defender, and then no needing to go to ground, take the ball off a forward. Sorry, but I so far with me with Romans, what I've liked is seeing him surging forward with the ball. And as I say, it kind of reminded me when Bomber used to do that.
Well, Davy Robertson.
No, slightly different. Davy Robertson.
My favourite ever Rangers player.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. I really like Davy Robertson. No, he doesn't remind me of Davy Robertson. Davy Robertson, I think, was a wee bit silkier. I think Robertson had that electric pace. He was ridiculously quick. So much so that a linesman thought he was offside despite him starting to run 4 yards behind the Celtic player.
Yes.
But yeah, he was a cracking player, Davy Robertson. Him and Laudrup, that link up, the two of them on the left wing was absolutely brilliant. Cracking football player, Davy Robertson.
I've said this before. The very first interview I ever done when I started doing all this podcast stuff was somehow with Davy Robertson, and I have never been so scared in my life, ever. And it was through Skype.
He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he is. But when you've never met him and he's your hero,
that's true.
And you're just starting out in this business, if you want to call it that. I was absolutely petrified. But he spoke to me for an hour and a half from India, and he was just, honestly, what a man. And do you know what? He obviously had an Indian phone number, obviously, back then, because that's where he was living. So he's obviously left and came back. And I messaged him on that phone once to say, look, would you be up for another chat or whatever? And clearly somebody else had the phone and it wasn't him anymore, and they wanted a lot of money off to do the interview. But
fair enough. I was in Dubai. Was it earlier this month or last month? It's wasted, but with Ian Durant, Mark Haley, and Graham Souness, and Durant, he was telling a story. Somebody asked him at the Q&A. He said, what were they like in the dressing room? Who was, your famous drinking, nights out? And he said, Davy Robertson. Said Davy was the quietest guy in the whole world until he got a drink in him. He said, and then it was like Tasmanian devil loose on the party. And I said, I know a few guys like that.
The story of how he actually got to Rangers from Aberdeen's a really interesting story. But this isn't the History Channel. So, no. MJ Page, I will say thank you very much for the super chat. Next time, put in a comment so that we can read it out. And finally, David, final question of the night. I have it somewhere. I will find it. There, it's there from William Fraser. Evening, guys. Would you stick with the same team that played against Hearts? I would drop Raskin for Dio. Obviously, that's meant to be Dio. And Suter for Giga. So against Livingston, this question of rotation keeps coming up, David. One game a week. Do we need to rotate?
I don't think we need to. I could understand putting Diomande in there because we're going to have more of the ball and you might not need the same kind of job, but Raskin will play. I don't think Giga had done much wrong to deserve to be dropped, to be honest. But look, the team won a massive game. They'll all be confident. I think you start the same team and you say them on you go. But again, we don't know. Maybe somebody might be carrying a knock, or they don't want to risk somebody.
Like Dujon Sterling, for example. Maybe
so there might be that. But if the manager was to come out and say, "You saw what they did last week, same again today," I don't think anybody would have any complaints, would they?
No, I don't think they would at all. Unless, of course, we don't win against Livingston.
Well, but that's it. Yeah, that's the reality of being a manager. If we go there and we win 4-0, everybody will be buzzing and saying how great they are. If they go there and they don't win, everybody will be, raging. That's life.
Unless you support a small team like Aberdeen or Hibs or something like that, and in which case you're happy no matter what happens to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the life of football. And listen, it's not just us, right? I mean, I watched the English title race right now. Mikel Arteta, he'll either be at the end of the season, he'll either be a total genius or a total bottler. That's how he'll be labelled. That's what I mean. That's how it'll be labelled, right? People won't go, well, they finished second in one of the hardest leagues in the world. They'll go, ha, bottler, right? And so he'll either be the guy who restored Arsenal to the top, or there'll be people saying he should get sacked. It's football.
And if he does, I just hope Arsenal don't look at Danny Earl for a job he's doing at Rangers. But
Yeah,
I,
let's take
I
his
shouldn't.
phone off him this summer before he goes
Yes,
on his holidays.
I shouldn't
Agreed.
even joke about that.
Agreed.
David, thank you very, very much. It's been too long.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Like I said, the usual links for both the Rangers Rabble membership and the Heart and Hand Patreon are in the description of the video, so go and check them out. Thank you to all the comments, all the questions, everybody for tuning in, for all your support. Once again, thank you, David, and we will speak to you all very, very soon.